I hope you all are doing well. I've continued transcribing what I can from the notebook that I found. Some pages seem missing and some of the writing is no longer legible, but there's enough text to get the gist of what happened at the asylum. In the notebook, Alana mentioned that the asylum used to be called New Hope. I spent hours looking and I couldn't find any historical information related to that place. Here's more I've been able to transcribe.
Tomorrow marks a week since the beginning of my treatment. I still can't remember any of it. I always just end up back in my room. I'm starting to think that it's for the better anyway. It makes the days seem to go by faster. I can't say that I'm feeling any better since the treatment started. In fact, quite the opposite. Everything is coming at such a cost to me mentally now. Reading, writing, holding conversations, etc. are all way more exhausting than they used to be. The good news is that I think the doctor may have actually listened to Kristen, Leo, and I. The orderlies have been noticeably less violent and more patient with us. I'm not sure where their odd, unwarranted hatred of us came from in the first place. I can understand not wanting to spend all of your time in an asylum, but at least they can leave if they want to. I've noticed some posters going up around the facility about a community event that is being hosted tomorrow in the lounge to celebrate 1 week of treatment. It starts at 8 p.m. after we take our evening medicine. The doctor did mention on our first day here that there would be some events from time to time. They're showing some superhero movie. I've never been interested in those types of movies. They're all the same. You have a hero and a villain. It looks like the villain's evil plan is working, and then the hero swoops in at the end and defeats him. It gets old. The poster did mention that there would be some snacks. Any opportunity to eat something other than terrible cafeteria food is one I'm definitely going to take advantage of. Kristen, Leo, and I have continued discussing different ways to possibly escape from this place. We're thinking of using the hour we're allotted outside to start cutting through the fence, or maybe dig underneath it. It would be a lot of hard work, and there is almost always an orderly out there with us, but it's the best idea we have right now. That's a sad thought. Day 21. I was woken up at around 3 this morning to a loud banging sound coming from the next room over. It repeated over and over, almost like a slow metronome. It turned out that the patient in the next room was repeatedly banging his head against the wall. I would have called for someone sooner, but I had no idea what the sound was coming from until I saw him being pulled out of his room and past mine. He returned around 10 minutes later with some bandages covering the right side of his head. Now that I think of it, a lot of the patients have been acting pretty strangely recently. Some start muttering incoherently from time to time. Some start crying to themselves. One guy started singing at the top of his lungs in the middle of the night, which provoked a weird, hysterical laugh from someone in another room. The combination of the two was enough to make my skin crawl. Throughout the day, it seemed like everyone was excited for the community event. I think the excitement came less from actually wanting to watch the movie, and more from the chance it gave to break the monotony of our usual routine. We all filed into the lounge at 8 p.m. The table to the left that Kristen, Leo, and I usually sit at during recreational time was covered with a bunch of different snacks. To the right, there was a projector, displaying a giant blue rectangle on the wall with a few rows of cheap plastic chairs for us all to sit in. I assumed they were waiting for us all to get settled before they started the movie. The 3 of us chose to sit at the end of the last row. The doctor entered the room and congratulated us all on a great first week of treatment. He said that we could put any requests for future community events through an orderly, and they would be considered. On his way back out of the room, he stopped behind the 3 of us. He told us to meet him in his office tomorrow, after evening medicine, to follow up with our conversation from last week. The movie was more entertaining than I expected it to be, most likely because of the intense boredom that I was experiencing half the time that I'm here. Leo seemed to be really into it as well. I think Kristen fell asleep halfway through. It was interrupted a couple of times. There was one outburst from a patient who forgot where he was. Probably 20 minutes after that, a patient tripped on his way back to his chair and almost took out the projector. Day 22. Apparently, I had an outburst of my own last night. According to Kristen, at around 2 in the morning, I started banging on my door, yelling to be let out. I kept screaming that I was running late for something. I didn't even know that our doors were locked from the outside at night. I had never tried to open mine after 10. I didn't remember any of it happening, but I know Kristen wouldn't lie to me about something like that. She's been just as freaked out by the other patient's weird behavior as I have been. Apparently one of the orderlies whisked me away and then brought me back a few minutes later. I was silent for the rest of the night after that. The rest of the day continued as normal. After lunch, the three of us went outside and nonchalantly walked the perimeter of the yard, seeing if there was an ideal place to start digging or a hidden section of the fence to start cutting through. Sadly, the entire yard was within view of the door to the building that the orderly sat next to. We decided that we'd probably have to figure something else out. I was excited to meet the doctor again. The fact that he requested a follow-up showed that he was taking our request seriously. Just as we had last time, after taking our evening medicine, we approached the orderly overseeing the lounge and were escorted back to his office. We took our seats in the same 3 chairs in front of his desk that we had sat in last time. I noticed the leather book that I had seen the first few pages of on a bookcase near the door.
I hope you guys will have noticed an improvement in the behavior of the staff. I sincerely apologize for their conduct.
The doctor began.
We're all working together here for the greater good. Sometimes they must forget that.
We appreciate you for listening. Things have gotten better,
Kristen said. The doctor seemed happy with her response.
Great. Are there any other questions that you 3 have for me?
Leo spoke up.
What's the deal with our treatment? None of us can remember any of it. Other patients have said the same thing.
That's just par for the course for this kind of treatment. We're healing subconscious wounds here, and that's where the treatment is best to stay. Trust me, I've been studying and working in this area my entire life.
I glanced at the framed diplomas hanging on the wall behind him and felt a little better. After we are finished here, will we be able to know?
Well, if you make enough progress here, I don't see why not. There's still much work to be done, though.
He stood up with a warm smile on his face.
I think it's best you guys get back to the lounge now. I'm heading in that direction as well. Please, follow me out.
Now here's why I'm almost shaking with nervousness. As we were trailing the doctor out of the door, I fell in line behind Kristen and Leo and snatched the leather book from his bookcase. It's not a very large book, and I shoved it in my pocket. It was a split-second decision. What the hell was I thinking? Of course he's going to realize that it's missing. If no other patients have met with him in his office, he's going to know one of the 3 of us took it. My curiosity got the best of me. I'm waiting a little while until everything is quiet outside of my room, and then I'll transcribe what I find in the book below. If I'm incredibly lucky, I'll find some way to return the book without the doctor noticing. But something tells me he's not going to ask for a follow-up to our follow-up. I really hope that this book is some kind of sick joke. Here's what I found following the page containing a list of all patients. Patients 1 through 10. Patients 1 through 10 will be introduced to various physical stressors, intended to elicit various mental disturbances in order to properly test with. The various physical stressors are as follows. Patient 1 will be suspended by his feet and required to hang upside down. Brief periods of relief may be granted if the amount of pressure the brain is subjected to is determined to be potentially life-threatening. Patient 2 will have a hood placed over his head. He will be issued painful electric shocks to random areas of his body at random intervals. Patient 3 will be subjected to intense high temperatures. The temperature will be high enough to cause intense discomfort, but leave no visible injury. Inversely, patient 4 will be subject to intense cold temperatures. The temperature will be monitored to avoid hypothermia. Patient 5 will be subject to intense and abrupt loud noises and incredibly bright lights at random intervals. Patient 6 will be restrained in intensely uncomfortable positions for the duration of his treatment. Patients 7 and 8 will be required to take turns administering electric shocks to each other. The patient himself will be shocked if he fails to shock the other patient. Patient 9 will be placed in a rectangular glass enclosure from the neck down and will be laid horizontally on the floor. Various insects and non-venomous snakes will be placed in the glass enclosure for the duration of the treatment. Patient 10 will be routinely asphyxiated. The brain will be repeatedly deprived of oxygen, but no mark should remain on the neck after treatment. Patients 11 through 20. Patients 11 through 20 will be administered a medication intended to weaken function of various parts of the brain at random. With 10 separate subjects, The medication is expected to produce enough varied symptoms to properly test with. Patients 21 through 30. Patients 21 through 30 will not be subject to any manipulation. They will, as the others, still experience a drug-induced amnesia after each treatment session in order to dispel any suspicion among the patients. I can't peel my eyes from the number 17 written after my name on my wristband.